countries.
Yes. And what about you, Jonas?
I just read about in America also. In Brazil, I don't see much. I think it's something about legislation also. I don't even know if it's allowed in Brazil.
Yeah, I think it's allowed. I think right now not just right now, but some years ago we can start doing it, but it's not common, all right? And I think just a little of people know that it's possible. But I've heard it as all of you, just about American or some countries of the Europe, uh, and we usually see it at movies, right, of the United States or something like it. But yes, I already have heard about homeschooling. And Jonas, how do you believe technology can support the process of homeschooling?
Maybe you can interact more with other children that do homeschooling also, and had a little bit of different people to talk. But it's I don't know how much technology could help, because you are teaching your children in your house. Maybe you can have better access to information. That's something that could help the parents to teach their children. But I think that it's a little bit limited what the technology can be used in this case.
Yes, I think that technology, of course, can provide more information access to these kids, all right? Because if you imagine homeschooling in the past that without technology or without internet access, with just books, for example, I think it was harder because the family should have access to all of the different books, right, of all subjects, for example. But right now it's not totally necessarily because you have these informations at the Google. You can just search about it. So I think it's one of the ways that technology can support the homeschooling process. And another, as we are doing here right now, we can study by home with homeschooling, but interact with another kids, as Jonah said. So I think it's another benefit. We are not limited to just study with our parents, for example. Uh, Maybe the parents can change the day of the parents that will teach or something like it. So with some ways that I see that the technology can help in this process of the homeschooling. And what about you, Fernanda? What do you think?
I agree with you. I think technology can help with a lot of content, and you can see different methodologies of studying a different thing. And maybe when you are at home, you won't get access to things like a chemical reaction, maybe. So you can go to YouTube and see a video about that. So you can see more things that you won't, I think you won't be able to do at home, maybe. And you get access to more exercises. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so let's move on to the another question. So what are the benefits of homeschooling in your opinion? So I will start this discussion. I think that the first is that you don't need to go out uh, to study. you can study at your house, all right? So in terms of comfortable, for example, it's a good point. The another is that you have the teacher all the time with you, all right? Because the teacher is your parents the most of the time. So that's another benefit in my opinion. And as we answering the question number 2, we have access to different informations or methodologies that sometimes we haven't the access when we go to school. When we talk about Brazil, all right, I don't know how it works at the United States exactly, but I think if you imagine the homeschooling here in Brazil, for example, I think it's will be one of the benefits. And what about you, Fernanda? What do you think?
I would add another benefit is that you don't waste time with transport and going to school and coming back, and it is easier for parents, I guess, when the kids are at home. Can be more secure, because when you go out, maybe you go to not so safe places, I guess. And the things you said, you have the attention all the time, so if you have some difficulty, it's easier to understand, and you have the comfort. Well, you don't need to wake up early. You can have your own time, do the classes the time you prefer, not necessarily the time that the school has the class. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I think different families have experienced this this kind of homeschooling during the pandemic here in Brazil. All right. In my
Yeah.
case, for example, when the pandemic started, I was at the last year of the high school, and I study half the year at home. Not exactly homeschooling because it's not my parents that are teaching me, but it's a remote class. But yeah, at some point that we are talking here, I experienced, for example, I don't need to wake up so early to go out and take a bus, for example, and go to the school. I can wake up next to the class hour and prepare my desk, my computer, for example. So that's so comfortable. I'm at my home, so I can go to the bathroom or go to eat something at the time that I want. Right? At the school, it's harder. Do it all the time. So I think the comfortable it's one of the good points of the homeschooling, and I have experienced something like it at the first year of the pandemic. And what about you, Jonas? What do you think? What are the benefits of the homeschooling for you?
I think the biggest benefit is to be able to teach some children that could not have a good education in school. So maybe our children has a little bit of difficulty or something like that. But I maybe some of devil's advocate in the subject. The first one, you talk about homeschooling, but not really homeschooling because it's just remote class.
Yeah, that's
And in homeschooling, I am a lot against just homeschooling by your parents because the biggest problem is you are not allowing your children to have different opinions or visions be getting to them. The video also talk about that the parents do that because religions or something like that in the school it's not allowed or it's something different that they think about. But these different things, it's important for the children. and they should experiment. I am also about the comfort. In your age, I think it's absolutely okay. But when you are developing the children, you need that the children experience some difficulties. You don't have to allow the children to wake up anytime he wants, or that the school will be done in his pace. He needs to adapt because the world is not going to function that way. And if he develop in this way, he will have more difficult to adapt after that. So I am are really against homeschooling because you can have both worlds. You can let your children to go to school, and everything else you can teach in home, or if the children are not going well in school, you can help on your home after the school. So you can have both of them, but not take away the opportunity to have different opinions.
Yes, I think the homeschooling is hard when we are talking about so young kids, right? Because I think it's hard to adapt them to just a routine that you are just at house. But I think the idea of remote classes, it's good. Maybe just for the high school, for example, that it's one of the points that I've experienced during the pandemic. But of course, during all of my life, I go to the school and I learn a lot of things. But it helped me to adapt to the remote class. But it was just 1 year. But I agree with you. It's hard to just give comfortable for a kid, all right, and he or she don't learn how it's the real life. Because, for example, when you end your school, you need to adapt your routine to work, for example, or to study at the university, and that it's some point that you can develop during your school time. And so it's good points that you can develop when you are a kid. But all right, let's move on to another question. It's the question number 4.
I think she dropped the connection. Oh, she's back.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the question number 4. So, Fernanda, do you think that homeschooling could help students evolve faster than in school?
No, I don't think so. Because you lost a lot of interaction with other people, and you will be depending of the knowledge of your parents. So I think it's not really, maybe it's possible for a parent to know all the subjects, but I think it's difficult to know everything about math and science and history. I think you lost some kinds of subjects, and you lost the thing, the interaction, how you deal with people, how you deal with authority. With our parents, we are more comfortable to talk and to take to give our opinion. Maybe in a classroom you won't be, but you just realize that if you are in this different environment with different people, I don't think you evolve faster. I think you lose some things. I think in school you learn more.
Yes. And what about you, Jonas? What do you think?
I think it's depending the level of the children. So in a younger age, maybe they will develop quicker because they have more attention and it's a easier subject. So the parents don't have to be so knowledgeable, but with time, the gap will be less and less, and I think the school will surpass the knowledge of the parents for sure.
Yeah, that's true. At the first years of the school, it's so simple, the subjects, all right? So I think the parents can have the knowledge to help the kids learn. But for example, when you're at the high school, that you need to study deeper some content to pass in a test, for example, to enter in the university. I think the homeschooling, it's not the best uh the best way, all right, to learn. Maybe one subject, for example, my parent is a teacher of physics, so he can teach me a lot about this subject, but about, yeah, another subject, not. So it's hard to imagine a, even a teacher parent have knowledge about different subjects to help a kid pass in a exam, for example. But of course, it's depend of the knowledge of the kid too, because we have some kids that can learn alone using the internet, for example. For example, we have some kids that search on Google, search a video at YouTube alone, and can study by yourself without help of another people. But it's not the most of the cases, all right? So I think that it's depend. The initial years, I think it's helped a lot. The parents' knowledge can help the student evolve faster, but when you need to study deeper some content on the subject, it's not the best ways that you can improve your knowledge. All right, so let's move on to the question number 5. So, Jonas, what aspects of homeschooling do you think are the most challenging?
I think to have different opinions is the biggest one, and you don't have really a response to that. Even what the video shows, that some children get together, but you can see that's something that the parents approve, or some parents that get together and so you're going to get your children together. So it's just friends. You are not out of the bubble. So you are always in the same bubble and you don't see anything outside of that. And this is the biggest drawback for me.
Yes. To me, it's that you don't develop some important skills for your life. For example, when you are just inside your home with your mother, for example, uh, you will not have the experience to talk in public to another people. All right. So it's one of the skills that usually you develop at the school. You need to do some lecture, some to present some work in your classroom for your classmates. But in your house, you will probably not will have this experience. And when you get older, probably when you need some time to do a presentation, probably you will have some problems because it will be your first time and it's one ability that you haven't developed during your life, all right? So I think that's one of the challenges. At your home, you don't develop the most of time all of the ability that you could develop. One of them is to talk in public. And what about you, Fernanda? What do you think?
I think another challenge is to define what is important or not to study about. Because if you're not a teacher, how I mean, how do you know what you need to teach for for children to know? I mean, how do you create a chronogram of things you need to learn? I mean, there are a lot of subjects in that, so I think it's complicated to know what thing of each subject you will need to focus on, what is going to have an importance. I guess this is a little difficult.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so let's move on to the question number 6. So, can technology help overcome the challenge of homeschooling? I think it can help sometimes. One of the challenge of the homeschooling, it's the interaction of another people, all right? So you lose the most of time this contact with the other people. But you can use technology to help this challenge, because with technology you can interact with other people, not face to face as in a school, but it's better than not interact with other people. So it's one of the ways that I see that the technology can help to uh, to overcome this challenge. As Fernanda said, another it's to define what is study. Maybe we can find it at the internet too. Of course, not so advanced planners or paths that roadmaps that you can follow. But it's in parts. I think the internet can help to overcome in parts this challenge too. And what about you, Fernando? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you can search on internet what is important or not. Maybe if you can personalize the study. If you maybe a kid already know what is he or she is going to be, or maybe he likes to like science. So you can put some things that are more important for someone that is going to follow this career. So you can have more this kind of subject and more information about that.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we haven't at the school, right? For example, at the school, a person that will do an exam to enter in a lower university, an university to become a lawyer, or a university to become an engineering, will study the same things, all right?
Yeah.
Here in Brazil. But in the homeschooling, maybe you can focus in the subject that it's most important for your case. For example, if you want to become an engineering, maybe you will need to focus the most of your time studying math, science, and here in Brazil, it's not happen at the traditional methodology at the school. Maybe it happen in the schools of another countries, and it's one of the things that we can do at the homeschooling, because you are studying with your parents, all right, at your house, and you can focus in what really matter. Uh, it's one of the things that I can see about the homeschooling. And what about you, Jonah?
I agree, it can help. Even the problem with public discourse, you can make your children to make a YouTube video presenting the work, but so in every challenge that we talk about, it can help, but sometimes it goes against what homeschooling is sometimes trying to do. That's protect a little bit more your children. So if you allow your children to go to the internet and talk to anyone that wants and read anything, it's a little bit dangerous because the internet is it's danger for children.
Maybe
And
more dangerous than at school, right?
is exactly. So maybe you are going against what we're trying to protect even more. Even to make your children to make a video so he can practice public discourse. But there's a lot of people seeing that and maybe be a little bit of danger to the children. So it can help, but at same point, at the same time, it can bring some other problems.
Yeah, that's true. One of the problems I think it's that the kids will pass more time in front of the screens, all right? Because when you go to the school, you pass some time interact with your friends, another with the teacher, with books, for example. But at the homeschooling, probably talking about technology, we will pass a lot of time using screens, and definitely it's not so good to the kids' health. And it's one of the challenges maybe too that I forgot to talk. It's the amount of time that you spend in front of a screen. Maybe it can help even to we have more kids addicted to screens, addicted to technology. That's one of the challenges too. But all right, let's move on to the another question. It's the question number 7. Would you have preferred to attend homeschool as a child, Jonas?
No. Even more, my parents are not well. They don't have a really high level school, so my mother, I think, don't even finish the middle second grau degree. I don't know how to. So this would be more challenging yet, and I think I had some problems with school, but it helped me. So it molded me to be a better person,
Yeah,
to adapt.
yeah. For me too. I think the school period, I make a lot of friends. All right, it was so good time during my life. And maybe the friends that I have right now, I would not have if I attended homeschooling when I was a kid. So I think the school helped me a lot to develop my knowledge. Maybe with just learning with my parents, I will not learn all the things that I've learned. So I think definitely I would not like to attend homeschooling. Maybe remote classes, yes, and I attended during the high school because the pandemic, and it was a good moment too because I was studying to an exam to enter at the university, and I could focus the time that I was, for example, inside the bus. I can use this time to study, which was really necessarily. So it helped me a little bit to study remote during the high school, but homeschooling definitely not. I don't. I would like to study in this methodology. And what about you, Fernando?
Me too. I wouldn't like to attend it, homeschooling. I would never choose the career I am right now if I had homeschooling. My parents didn't have chemistry or physics in their life, and I am doing industrial chemistry, so I wouldn't have access to that. And I also am an introvert person, so being with other people, it helps me, it forced me to speak and to try to have some social life. So would be right now, even I would be worse than I am right now with my social interactions if I hadn't have to be forced to talk with other people when I was younger. So I wouldn't like.
Yeah, I think it's one of the better point that I developed when I was at the school. It's the to talk with another people, right? I think it's so hard for kids that don't live with another people of their friends every day, a long time per day, to develop this kind of skills to interact with other people. So I think that's one of the best points of the school. Maybe even then more than the subjects that you learn, all right?
Yeah.
Uh, and what about you, Jonas? Have you answered this question?
Yes, I was the
All right.
first one.
Yeah. So let's move on to the question number 8. So, Jonas, how should the family members get ready to homeschool a child, in your opinion?
I think the first step is to try to think about and see if it's a good idea, or if you can have your children study in the school and try to pass the knowledge you want to pass besides the school. So having both, maybe the first step is to try to think about and see if it's really necessary.
Yes. And what about you, Fernanda?
I think the family members should to research what is important to teach and make a chronogram of the things they pass, and they will need a space for that with a table and a place that is appropriated to study. I guess.
Yes. That's definitely a hard question, all right? Because when that of course not parents have uh the prepared to teach a kid when we are talking about subjects, all right? But maybe I think we can use the internet right now to search what content it's necessarily to a kid learn when you are talking about passing exams, for example, because it's the most common here in Brazil, all right? So I think the internet can help the families get ready to homeschool a child, because we have uh, access to infinite contents on internet, and if the parent uh, take this decision of homeschool, maybe the parent will suffer a little bit to learn some subjects, but uh, thanks good we have the access to the internet to research about it and find a way to teach it to the kids. All right, so let's move on to the question number 9. So, what are the drawbacks of homeschooling, in your opinion, Fernanda?
I'm not so sure if I understand the word drawbacks. Is like a negative points?
Yes.
Yeah, it's some of the
Yes,
problems
yes.
that you can see in the
Oh,
homeschooling.
yeah, I think the person needs the social interaction. Um, you also you don't learn things that are common in adult life, like taking a bus or talking to people, asking for information. You don't be how can I say, you won't have this kind of situation if you're always at home. You have a parents to resolve things for you, get things for you, and you need this kind of to do this kind of things when you are going to work. Yeah. And I think you you don't learn things that are important for our day-to-day life, I guess, that are different from the subjects. The things are of interaction, maybe just how to talk to people, or how to walk on the streets, how to get to places, this kind of things.
You're mute.
Yeah, I'm muted. I said in another question that one of the good points that is that you can focus in the subjects that you can use to pass in an exam that we will do. But of course, if you just follow a subject and just study it, probably will have some points that we will lose in your knowledge about another subjects, right? Maybe it's not necessarily to pass in an exam, but it's good that you can know, for example, in your life. So I think with homeschooling, maybe if your parents have limited knowledge about just one subject or something like it, probably will have some gaps of another subject, and that it's important to your life. For example, as I said, if I just study math, for example, and I don't study the Portuguese grammar, maybe Portuguese grammar is not so necessarily to pass in an exam to a specific course, but for your life, all right, it's so necessarily. And maybe with homeschooling, if your parents have this knowledge to teach you, it's one of the bad points that we will not learn at the homeschooling. So the gaps of another subjects, I think it's one of the drawbacks. And what about you, Jonas?
I think I was against the subject a lot in a lot of points and talk about of the drawbacks of the homeschooling. For sure, the variety, the different subjects try to be out of your bubble. There's a lot of drawbacks in homeschooling. And when I say homeschooling, is homeschooling not remote class? I think about remote class way different from that I think about homeschooling. So your parents teaching you, you are missing a lot of things in your life.
Yes, that's it. So let's move on to the question number 10. Is homeschooling the future of education, Jonas? What do you think?
Nope, absolutely not. Again, remote class, maybe. You can have a lot more remote classes in the future. But if you think about homeschooling being the main way you learn, just to think about critically, you know that's not going to be a good path. If you have 3 generations of just the parents teaching the children, after some generations, you're not evolving your family. You are just, you're not bringing new things. You're not bringing new visions, points of views. So you are just devolving your family. So I really don't think homeschooling is the future.
Yeah, me too. I think not in Brazil, all right. Maybe in another countries, as we see in America, that we have a lot of people adapt to it. But here in Brazil, the Brazil culture, I don't think that it will be good because as we said, we have, I think, more drawbacks than positive points. I think the positive point it's just that you are next to your family all the day. You are in a comfortable environment, but I think that drawbacks, the negative point, it's so bigger than the positive points. So definitely, I don't think that the homeschooling it's good for the kids. Remote job, no, remote classes. I think it's not good to kids too. To young kids, all right, because I think it's so difficult to the kids adapt to being a long time sitting in front of a computer studying. But to young people that are in the high school, for example, I think it's good because they are more conscient about what to study, what they will do in the university, for example, what they need to study more. So I think the remote classes, it's a good point, but just for older kids, all right, that it's finishing the school period. And what about you, Fernando? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. For Brazil, I don't think it's the future of the education, because we have a very low level of education. So if you going to ask for your parents to teach you, I think a lot of kids won't have anything to learn about, or maybe. And what I see as for the future, I think not for kids, but for people who are older, are the technology on education, virtual things, and artificial intelligence, this kind of thing. But I don't think this works for children. As you said, they don't have. I don't. They don't have. It's not the time for be sitting all day studying. They don't have this maturity, I guess, to be focused on that. It's not really the time. Yeah. So I don't see that as the future of education.
Yes, and we with the homeschooling we lose a lot of experience that we have at the school. For example, in my school, I traveled a lot with my friends and to different places. All right, so travel was prepared of the school. So it's one point that we will not have at the homeschooling. Uh, and another experience, for example, to we have some labs at the school that we will not have at the at our house the most of time. So some experience that we have just at school, we unfortunately lose when you are talking about homeschooling. We have more time, so we can keep in answering the questions. I prepare more questions before the class, before this meet. But I just send here 10 as the common. But I send here more 2 questions. So let's keep in talking about this topic. So the question 11, is homeschooling suitable for all types of children? Are there cases where it's most beneficial or problematic? What do you think, Fernando?
I don't think it works for all children, because some children have I'm not so sure if that's the name. I guess difficulties of concentration I think it has a name for this kind of a problem, but I don't remember right now. So you TG,
AG,
TGA or something
it's
like.
four letters. I don't remember the last two.
Yeah, I think it's TDA. But so it's really difficult for our parents to know how to deal with that, because you will need some different methodology that it is difficult for a teacher to have it, even. And if you're talking about our parents, it's even more difficult. So you will need some different kind of attention, maybe.
Yeah. Uh, I think, yeah, definitely the homeschooling is not for all kids. Maybe the kids that have a better uh, comprehension of the subject, for example, uh, maybe. But some kids, for example, have some difficulties to learn with one methodology. It maybe this methodology hits exactly of the parents, what the methodology that your parents know, all right? But when you are at the school, if you don't understand what the teacher explained for you, you can ask again, and maybe the teacher will try to explain with another methodology or something like it. So I think in these cases, uh, it's the good point of you go to the school, because we have a teacher in front of you, and this teacher it's prepared to explain to you in different ways if you have some question or some doubt. uh, and maybe it's not the case when you are learning with your parent, all right? Because maybe he learned just in one way and just in parts of the subject. And what about you, Jonas? What do you think?
I think it's not for most of the children, but for sure there'll be maybe some children need homeschooling for some difficult. Uh, Maybe the children has some phobia. There's psychological problems that cannot be don't allow the children to go to school. Uh, um, Maybe financial problems that you cannot pay some special school to teach the children. So maybe there is cases when homeschooling is the way to go, but for most of the children, it's not.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so let's move on to the question 12. So in terms of preparing for adulthood, how do you think homeschooling compared to traditional education? As I said, I think the school it's the best environment to develop a kid to interact with another people, to learn about how to live and to talk in public with or something like this. All right. So I think that have not comparison. Of course, we can learn. You can develop in parts these skills, as for example, Jonas said, we can record a presentation or something like it. But even though it's not exactly to speech in public, right, in front of a classroom of or another people, that it's strange for you. So, and I think that's one of the most important abilities that we can develop right now. So I think it's hard to compare uh, talking about adulthood, all right, and the abilities that you can develop. Not exactly about subjects. I think the subject it's not the point here in this question. And what about you, Fernando? What do you think?
I don't think it can be compared because I think you lose a lot for adulthood. I don't think you learn some things don't work as the way you want when you are an adult. So when you are at home, you have your pace. You choose the time you want to do and things the people you are in your bubble. But when you are an adult, you have rules to follow. You have certain times to work and to be there, and you don't choose the people you are going to work with. So I don't think homeschooling prepares you for adulthood because nothing is exactly like you want and prefer when you are an adult.
Yeah, definitely. And what about you, Jonas? What do you think?
I agree. They are not compared. Homeschooling basically is not preparing you to adulthood. In adulthood, you don't have your parents with you, and even drawbacks for school, like waking up later, or losing your bus, and also losing your tests. It's something that you make you learn about life. So even if you are, it's a negative for school, but it's something that prepare you to adulthood.
Yeah, that's true. So guys, unfortunately, our time ends right now. For me, I don't know for you, but for me, it was so good to talk about this topic. It's a topic that we usually don't talk in Portuguese, right? So it's a challenge to talk about it in English too. And to finish, I will send here a survey link on the chat, so you can share here if you like or dislike this topic, and you can share another topics that you wanna talk in the next week. All right, and I will see the answers and prepare the material, the questions, the video, and put the questions on the Talk and Talk website to us discuss at the next week. All right, I think that's it, and I hope see all of you again here in the next week. Good night, guys.
Bye. Have a great
Good
week.
night.